This conference will now be recorded.
Roll call.
Anna Evans.
Here.
Jack Hargrave, absent. David Summer. Mike Soluri.
Here.
Sasha Bosheen.
Here. Would you all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there any public comment on something that is not on the agenda? Okay, today we have a public hearing that will be before we actually start the normal meeting. I'm going to read what the action is that we are talking about today at the hearing, and the board will have their chance to discuss the issue, and then we will turn it over to public comment. Everybody gets a chance to speak, no matter whether you're online or here, and we will make sure everyone gets their opportunity before we close the public hearing portion of the meeting. I ask that you come up to the podium and make your public comment so that we can get you recorded and in the record. I also ask that there be no conversation and commentary from the floor. That, please, we just want the comments on the public hearing up here at the podium. Okay, public hearing and action by the Board of Directors regarding directors' compensation pursuant to Water Code Sections 2200 to 20207. Consider modification to Board Policy 4030, remuneration and reimbursement, approve Resolution 2405, approving Ordinance Number 75, and repealing Ordinance Number 64, an ordinance establishing directors' compensation to accommodate a cost of living increase. This is the second reading. The background is remuneration and reimbursement establishes directors' compensation for attending regular and special board meetings and reimbursements for reasonable expenses incurred in the performance of duties required or authorized by the Board of Directors. The policy has not been updated since 1999, and compensation for attending board meetings should be brought up to date to reflect increases in the cost of living. Repealing and replacing Ordinance Number 64 with Ordinance Number 75, using Resolution 2405, is necessary as it pertains to Policy 4030. The attached draft board policy 4030, draft resolution 2405, draft ordinance 75, and attached table. The financial impact is taking from $50 a meeting to $150 for each regular meeting, $25 to $75 for special meetings lasting less than 3 hours, and $50 to changes to $150 for special meetings lasting longer than 3 hours. The historical 5-year average annual cost is $600 a board member and $3,000 for all 5. Now I open this up to the board for comment. Dave?
I have a lot of mixed feelings and approach to this. One of them is that several times here at meetings, I have jokingly said we ought to get our cost of living updates. And, you know, when I said that, I meant it. But still, there are times when I think we don't really need it. We don't need the income. But another part of it is that for somebody to be on the board, let's say for next year, the idea of getting $150 a meeting might make the difference between making it worth doing. And we need people to be interested in being on the board. We've got a lot of good people in this town who would be great for this board. But we don't have a lot of people coming forward to it. I don't know if it'll make a difference, but it might. So personally, I'm okay either way, whether we do it or not.
Thank you, Dave. Mike?
I think these increases are a little bit too high. I took a look at, you know, what I spent to come here and do this and spend my time on the board. And, you know, I use some ink in my printer, I use some paper, I use some, you know, electricity to charge things or whatever. I drive, you know, 200 feet from my house to get in. So that much in gas, I think $50 compensates me appropriately, and I think a little bit extra. So a cost of living adjustment, I think, would be appropriate. I just think these numbers are a little bit too high for what I think is fair for what we do. All I got.
I believe that this cost increase is warranted, and that the cost that we are speaking about, as far as the 150 per meeting, I believe is fair. It's actually on the low side of what it's still not compensating us for the amount of time that we spend preparing for the meetings, and also before the meetings, engaging with the district in helping research for different projects that we will be needing funding in the future. And I think from my perspective and experience, I believe that keeping it at 50, or even like maybe raising it just a little bit more, doesn't really give the public perception that our board members are appreciated and held accountable and be held accountable for their responsibilities to come to these meetings prepared. And yeah, I think I think this would help, you know, really incentivize younger people to apply for board positions, and also up the level of responsibility and of the board members to be held accountable for how they show up for the meetings. I'm with Dave. I do have some mixed feelings on it, because it doesn't really matter that much to me, but I can see where it could to somebody else, a younger person. I don't think the public is necessarily aware, Tesha, of what you brought up, of how many hours we put in that are uncompensated. This year it's been a tremendous amount between labor negotiations and general manager search and the things that we have done. I think it was a maximized past year as far as the number of meetings we did, special meetings. We had a lot we weren't compensated for because we hit our maximum of 2. I don't anticipate all those meetings this year, which is good. But I do feel that we might possibly attract more people, younger people, who might want to come up and run for this board. It's very important that we get some other people, some younger people, to step up and come up here and have, I mean, even if it's just the incentive to spend a couple hours here as opposed to being at work. You know, we might be replacing some of their, you know, hourly labor that they're, you know, expending to come here. And Mike, it is 3% per year is how we calculated that amount from 1999 to 2000. Did we do it to 2023 or 4? That's what I thought, through 23. So that's my position on that. And so now we have time for any public comment. Anyone who would like to get up and speak, please come to the podium now so that we can get you recorded with your commentary on this increase for the board compensation. Right there.
My name is Nancy Mitchell, and I'm a resident of Shelter Cove. I'm a part-time resident, but I have my driver's license here, and okay, there needs to local. I'm a full-time resident. I'm not a full-time, I'm a part-time resident. I vote here. A number of you, not all of you. So I have a very strong opinion about this. I think, and I'm sorry, my understanding is your current compensation is $50 a month. I think that is insulting. I think it's ridiculous. Nobody works for that. I am a former elected official. I was on a school board for 8 years, and you don't get paid very much. But $50 a month is ridiculous. The amount of time just to read the documents for this meeting is nobody understands that. Reams of paper. You absolutely should get this increase, and you should accept it. And if you're feeling like, I don't want to take money from my community, either give the money back to the grid or donate it to the White House. Those communities, you know, the nonprofits in town can certainly use it, and I know the Lighthouse is certainly one of them. So I would really encourage you all to please pass this. And you want to encourage people to run for the board. And nobody can run. You guys don't have to run for $50 a month. Work, I know you do. So thank you for your time.
Full-time resident, Arlen Reed. Minimum wage is $16 an hour. You guys take more than 10 hours of work a month.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Am I allowed?
Of course.
Sure, you're here.
Mark Wilson, business representative, IBW Local 1245, representing the great employees of the Cove to keep this Cove running. Although I do concede that $50 a month per meeting is a little absurd in today's day and age, right? For pretty much anything. You don't really do a job like you guys are doing and the effort you're doing for the money. Nobody does this work for the money. You do it for the Cove, you do it for the people in the Cove. And as a union guy, everybody should be compensated fairly. And the fact that you guys haven't had an increase since 1999 is a little absurd, right? So, like I said, as a union guy, I fully support people making what they deserve and the money that they get paid for their efforts. So I also support the increase.
Is there anyone online? Okay, if there's no further commentary on this, we will do a roll call vote.
Can I
I
say
need
something?
Oh, sure, Dave, go ahead.
One of the things about being on the board that you may not understand, I suspect there's a perception that board members come in with their mind made up on everything. I mean, we've read the packet, we've thought about it, but sometimes there are issues that I don't make up my mind until I'm hear what the other board members in the audience has to say. And so I just want to say, this is one of those cases for me. I haven't made up my mind before just now.
Can I have a motion? I make a motion to, where do I start on this? There. I make a motion to approve and adopt board policy 4030, resolution 24-05, and ordinance number 75 as presented.
I second the motion.
Roll call vote?
Janet Evans,
Aye.
Jack Hargrave. David Summer,
Aye.
David Summer,
Mike Soloti,
Mike Soloti,
No.
and Sasha Bushin.
Tisha Bushin.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Moving along to the consent calendar. Oh, sorry. The public hearing portion of the meeting is closed. I knew I was going to forget something.
And you have to get a vote, close the meeting.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote to close the meeting? A motion.
So somebody needs to make a motion to close.
Okay, a motion to close.
I make a motion to close the meeting.
I second.
Oh, boy.
Roll call.
Didn't have that in my notes.
Janet Evans,
Aye.
Jack Hargrave, absent. David Summer, Mike Soloti,
Aye.
and Tisha Bushin.
Aye.
Carries.
Okay, now we'll move along to the consent calendar. Dave, do you have any questions?
I don't think so. No, I don't know.
Kesha?
Yes, I do.
Let's see here. For the unpaid bills, the CalPERS UAL bill of $8,087.75. What is that? What is it called?
That is our monthly payment to CalPERS for the unfunded accrued liability that the district owes.
Okay. My second question, with the wastewater treatment plant equipment repair of $7,418.59. What kind of repairs were we talking? On the second page of unpaid.
Yeah, it's for gearbox on our south side fire. One of those they have. Get for it's just a big gearbox. Makes motors go around. It's just large.
Awesome. And then for the bucket truck rental, for you, John, is this rental, how long have we been doing this now? For?
I think 6 months now. So, I think we have it till 27. Let's pay to now.
Okay, so
And I think that's it. Mike, any
I
comments
got,
or
I got
questions?
nothing there.
Okay, I don't have anything on, well, I got one comment on the balance sheet, which we never talk about that's actually on there. And this is just a request for staff, I think, and I can assist with this in any way, but we need to establish an allowance for bad debt that subtracts from the accounts receivable so that we're not overstated on what our assets are. So that's just a comment, Chris, that maybe you and I can talk about later. And I forget about it all the time if I don't mention it like right now. So, yeah. Okay, so on that, do we have any public comment on our consent? Do we do that? That's what I thought, public comment on this. Okay. No public comment. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the month of February 15th, 2024, regular board meeting. Can I add the bills to? And approve the bills for the month of February 2024.
I second the motion.
Roll call?
Janet Evans. Aye. Jeff Conrad, absent. Dave Summer.
Aye.
Mike Solari.
Aye.
Tricia Bushin.
Aye.
Janet Evans.
Carries. Okay, moving along to discussion items. Chris?
Yes. So the first item is our monthly Humboldt County Sheriff's Department update. And I also reached out to the Humboldt County Code Enforcement Unit for an update and sort of informational item on what their role is here in Shelter Cove. Expressed interest in learning about the role and responsibilities of the Humboldt County Code Enforcement Unit. And so I invited a Humboldt County Code Enforcement Unit representative to speak on what the unit does for Shelter Cove residents. And we also have our Humboldt County Sheriff's representative, Lieutenant Josh McCall, here with us too online. So with that, I pass on to, I guess, whoever would like to go first, Lieutenant McCall or Dean of Humboldt County Code Enforcement.
So if Mr. Beck's over, then I'll go real quick. I don't have too much. So yeah, good morning. Looking at our stats for the from February 15th to March 15th, those were calls for service in the Shelter Cove area were up from the previous month period of that, from January 15th to February 15th. There was 22 calls for service from the middle of January to February, and that went up to 42 calls for service from February to March. That being said, looking at the call types, looks like the main source of increase on that was transfer calls to other agencies. So that would be if there was an accident or something that was like a CHP issue that would be transferred to them, or calls that would be transferred to like fire and or medical. They also had several incomplete calls and 911 hang-up calls. I would venture to guess the incomplete calls were likely related to, if I'm not mistaken on my dates, and a lot of this stuff ends up running together sometimes, I think there was a phone issue out there during that time period. So I'm guessing that may have been a source of that increase on those calls. Aside from that, the other numbers to go with that increase were just like one call of various call types to that didn't occur the previous month, and nothing that was a significant increase. So it wasn't like there was suddenly 10 more burglary calls or something like that. There was no significant increase in call types other than those transfer calls and those incomplete calls that occurred last month, which should speak to that increase in calls for service. Aside from that, it looked like call volume generally stayed about the same from the previous month, and no significant items that seem to pop up on my end here that I'm aware of. So with that said, I guess it would be if there's any questions on anything out there pertaining to that, I'm more than happy to try and answer them.
No questions.
No question.
Thank you.
Good morning, the RID Board, General Manager Christensen, and members of the public. My name is Dean Beck, and I'm the Code Enforcement Manager for Humboldt County. I moved to Humboldt County in 1979, graduated from Eureka High School, and have worked in the construction industry since 1992. I started my employment with Humboldt County Building Department in January of 2018 as a building inspector. I was assigned to the Southern Humboldt area as a building inspector, including Shelter Cove, for the past 4 years. Most recently, I took the Code Enforcement Manager position in October of 2023. Code Enforcement enforces Chapter 3 Land Use and Development of the Humboldt County Code. Code enforcement protects the health, safety, and welfare of the public by enforcing state and county codes governing nuisances, environmental violations, and other related issues. The goal of code enforcement is to gain voluntary compliance by the property owner in abating the violations on the property, or if needed, take appropriate enforcement actions if the property owner is unwilling or unable to abate the violation. Humboldt County Code Enforcement is comprised of 2 units. First is our traditional team. The traditional team enforces county codes in regards to junk, inoperable vehicles, RVs as residents, solid waste, building violations, grading violations, substandard housing violations, amongst others. Our second team is the AIR team, otherwise known as the Humboldt's Environmental Impact Reduction Program. The Humboldt Environmental Impact Reduction was developed to have an impact on the illicit cannabis industry. Presently, there are 59 open code enforcement cases in Shelter Cove. Of those 59 cases, 31 cases are of the traditional team, 21 are from the AIR team, and there are 7 that are being enforced by the building department. Those would include the substandard violations, grading, and building violations. Code enforcement is complaint-based, and there's several ways to file a complaint. One would be to call the code enforcement office, and I'll have the phone number here. It's 707-476-2429. The second way would be to obtain a fillable complaint form off of the county's website and email it to our office. And the email is codeenforcement@co.humboldt.ca.us. You can also fax it into our office, 707-445-7446. And last but not least, we can get it here through snail mail, and that address is 3015 H Street, Eureka, 95501. And then last but not least is over the counter. If somebody was to come into our office, we can take complaints at our office. Information that's required for a valid complaint includes the date the complaint was first observed, location, and if you can attach a map, that would be great. Don't need to. APN, parcel assessor's number if known, name, address, phone number of the property owner if known, description of the complaint, and most importantly, we need the complainant information, name, address, and telephone number. Important point here is the complainant information is kept confidential
but it's required to have this information and to open a valid CE case. Code enforcement enforces county code on private property. Concerns on county roads, county rights-of-way, public rights-of-way should be directed to Public Works, the sheriff, or highway patrol. The question that has been asked is, can a person live in a travel trailer on a property? Travel trailers within recreational vehicle parks may be used as a dwelling. Outside of recreational vehicle parks, travel trailers may be used as a residence in one of two ways. With a special permit from the current planning division, a trailer may be used for up to 6 months of the year in zoning districts that allow recreational uses, or with a valid building permit. A travel may temporarily be used while constructing a home. Code enforcement does not actively investigate these complaints, as it would displace a number of people into a homeless situation. I am not a public speaker. Obviously, I had something prepared, and then this concludes my report. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Can you take a question or two?
Did you have a question for me, or you were muted?
Oh, can you take a question?
Sure, I'll do my best.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Dean, I hope you're liking your new job.
Hold on.
Point of order.
Point of order. It's supposed to be the board first.
Sorry, I jumped.
I'm gonna ask you. I have a question.
Okay.
Okay, this is Tasha Bushane, board member. My question is, here in Shelter Cove, I believe it's our ordinance that to reside in a trailer or / recreational RV type situation, that you need to have an active building permit. Is that accurate? And then also, we don't have that ordinance. Okay, that's just been, that's how we've been handling. Okay, I got that question answered. Thank you. My other kind of wondering how we deal with chronic problem areas in the cove that we have, that I know several community members, perhaps myself included, over many years have made certain, brought certain code enforcement complaints to code enforcement, and we've yet to see any movement on some of these locations that are obvious, blatant, rife with code violations, and just wondering how we can speed up some processes on getting these certain locations addressed. Over time, it just seems like they keep getting put on the back burner, and we've had fires started in certain areas that we've complained about before, and so they are safety hazard, or a safety hazard to the community. And so just wondering how we can speed those processes up, because it's been going on for years and we've made these complaints and there's still no action.
So that's a great question. Thank you. So along with a lot of other county agencies, the same drum roll of being short-staffed and under budgeted, but we still have a service to provide, and the service to provide to Shelter Cove. With that said, the best way to get action sooner on these problem properties, problem locations, is by the continued efforts of your board and the public letting us know where these problem spots are, because then they move up on the priority list. We have a number of code enforcement cases open throughout Humboldt County. We have 3 investigators and 3 code compliance officers to cover the entire county. So the bottom line is, the more complaints that we get, the more of a priority that it becomes.
So is there a way to find out where these certain sites are on, as far on your list of where they fall on priority.
Is there a way for the board to find out where that priority is?
Yes.
Yeah, I could look into that and get something to the general manager down there if that's what you're interested in. I would be interested in finding out where these problem sites are and where they are in the process. So I'll work with your general manager if that's all right, and we can develop that and bring something back.
That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, did you have anything?
No,
Chris, and if you can work with him, but also check with Nick, because he and I had conversations last fall regarding some of these code enforcements, which are now becoming fire department problems. So if you could work with Nick and get all of this, and we would appreciate having, because I know I hear from people that they file complaints and all they get is a nice little thank you letter and no action. So I think if you guys could start working on it, that would be great.
Okay.
Public comment. Now, public comment.
Hey, Dean, this is Arlen, and met you a few times before on some of the jobs here. I'm a director with the Shelter Cove Properties Owner Association, and I'm part of the code enforcement. So when people don't want to put their name in, I'm the one that does it. And I would like to have a list of everybody. I'm getting a lot of feedback from the community wanting to get on those other people that are already complained. And like you're saying, the more people that complain about it. So if I could get a list of the complaints that are active cases in the code that are already there, and then I could let everybody else know what places aren't on that list yet, so we can get those going too.
Absolutely.
That's it. Thank you.
Anyone else with a question for code enforcement? Okay, Chris.
All right, well, I guess that concludes that item. Thank you very much, Dean and Lieutenant McCall for presenting to the code. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
cool. Thank you. That was nice.
So the next item is an ongoing one. I know we've heard this all before. It's the consider resolution 2305, approving net energy metering program and new solar interconnection agreement. I don't have a lot to update on this one. I know John and we've been meeting with JTI weekly for the past couple weeks, and online webinar type meetings. Basically, they're gathering more data from us. They're creating a line diagram, and they're still waiting on data from PG&E meters. So we'll be meeting again next week and on an ongoing report. Do you have anything to add to that? So, waiting for that. Yeah. Yeah, I know there's been some questions about size of transformers, being able to allow backfeeding. And I know they've been incorporating the proposed solar farms into their studies, so the 3 solar farms in the district. So a lot of moving parts that they're still getting data for. So I guess that's pretty much all I have to update on that topic.
Any public comment on that? Please come up to the podium.
Jerry Jackson, I'm a resident here, and as you guys know, I'm a proponent of solar power. Yeah, it's frustrating. I've been coming to these meetings now for 15 months. And they're the same comments. And I'm thinking, okay, if this is my project, what I would do is I'd give myself a deadline and work towards that deadline. And I think that's one of our problems here. It's just out there, and it always will be just out there and discussed. We need to have a deadline with a decision focused on, say, okay, by this date, we're going to have this resolution brought to the board, discuss it, and vote on it. Because it just seems like that's what we're missing right now, is a sense of urgency. So I would hope that the board does that and maybe directs it, say this, let's put down on paper, this is going to be our decision date, let's march towards that, you can consult and march towards that date. I know that. Thank you.
Anyone else with comment? Okay, Chris?
Yeah, so the next item is the presentation of the second quarter of 2023-2024 fiscal year budget status review. Budget is attached. And, I guess I'll open up for any questions on that.
Buddy.
Okay. Mike, Dasha, any questions?
I looked this over the other night. I don't have anything.
My only question, might not even be that much important, but just, we did have some money set aside for a new copier, and I'm just wondering how that's going.
Yeah, we were actually going to be waiting on a new staff member before we really pulled the trigger on that. So money's still there waiting.
I have no questions, and neither does Dave, so we can move ahead. Public comment. Anyone have any questions on the budget? Okay, Chris, next item.
Okay, the next correspondence discussion item is the Coral Point invasive species removal and native plant restoration project. So for everyone's information, the district currently collaborates with the Eel River Wallaki over the use of RID Greenbelt property at the end of Coral Point. The district and Eel River Wallaki signed a memorandum of understanding in late 2022, formally expressed a mutual desire for maintaining and protecting the integrity of Wallaki ancestral homelands, including the rich diversity of biological plant and animal species. Part of the memorandum is also to encourage cultural heritage, educational events, and experiences. The Eel River Wallaki would like to present a new project at Coral Point for the district's information. It will be conducting invasive plant removal and native plant restoration. Eel River Wallaki Representative Diana Totten is here today, and she'd like to speak a little bit about the project.
Thank you very much. I'm on the committee with the Eel River Wallaki. And my name is Diana Cotton, and I'm fourth generation Humboldt County resident and born in Garberville, middle of last century. So we used to be here in the Cove a lot during my youth. I remember monkey kids with an airplane would fly over. We would run out and clear the sheep out of the field so we could land. And, so those are the days. I know when I was 15, I got my first commercial fishing license. I became part of the mosquito fleet in 1970 and fished out of the cove here. And our family has always had deep roots up here in the cove. And you're looking and wondering, why in the world are you representing the Wailakis? Well, with a little bit of Viking blood, I'm also Wintu Indian, which is the neighboring tribe to the east of the Wailaki. And the Wailaki is actually a Wintu word for northern speakers, so it represents their language. A lot of the Eel River Wailakis here in southern Humboldt have direct ancestry to Shelter Cove and to Big Flat. And so, their roots go pretty deep, and those are my cousins actually, so we're all interrelated. And, you can imagine what this place looked like 200 years ago, and then maybe 500 years ago. And those images still flow through us when we are out here, and even in our inland a little ways. And you guys noticed the midden piles, and Coral Point is one of those places that was inhabited really for a really, really long time. And so it would be the goal of the Worker Wildlife Case and myself and our committee to try to bring back that vision of what it used to look like, and what it used to be. And I know each one of you probably have a home, and the more time you spend at that home, the more like home it starts to feel like. And you start planting things, and you start doing a little bit of landscaping, and then pretty soon it really, really becomes part of you. So you could imagine thousands of years of living in a homeland and how much a part of you that becomes. So we want to be able to take a little area like Coral Point and do some restoration work there that would be really conducive to our heritage and ancestry. And we had the luxury of two scientists, botanical scientists, that were from McGarriger State Park, and they've since retired. And they came up last October, and we walked through the area down at Coral Point, and they're going to donate their time and energy to help work with us to not only identify native species and invasive species, but help us come up with management plans on how to make everything work, similar to what they did down in Garriger State Park. So we're excited to be able to work with them. And we've divided that little area up into 4 little segments, even though it's just a couple of different acres, or a couple of acres, 4 different sites that we could treat differently. One of the big things is the erosion and the big storms we've had over the last couple of winters. And I don't know how to address that. You know, one way, Native people like things natural, but Native people also have managed things over the years. So maybe we could work with RT, come up with an idea of how to keep that erosion from coming in there. And I know AJ Markey talked about in his lifetime, the erosion around on the front was 70 feet. And so I'm just a little younger than AJ. So the coastline is changing, but it would be a shame to lose a lot of the areas that are pretty significant. So maybe someday we come up with something. But the plants that are there, some of them are native plants, and managing those, we're going to learn a lot about how to manage other places in the Cove and just anywhere in southern Humboldt. And I'm looking at Nick and say one of the management tools is fire. And so we're going to be discussing that a little cultural fire project possibly out there. Again, the timing will be, you know, appropriate, and these are going to just be small areas. But the plants, the native plants are used to fire, occasional fire, where non-native plants are not used to it, so they won't survive. And the native plants will be reinvigorated. And David talked to me before the meeting about the native blackberry. And down on Coral Point, there's native blackberry there. And so all these food sources that our people rely on are still here, but they just haven't been managed. And so there's little management tools we could use on those as well. And so we're hoping that with approval, we'll be able to proceed this spring working on this vegetation management plan. And I do have to mention too, we're also working with Fish and Wildlife for abalone restoration. And so this spring with the lower tides, we're going to be doing a little bit of urchin removal and abalone restoration. And so we're working with Doyle Coin, who is actually Fish and Wildlife And so, in our future horizons, part of that is to bring back kelp. And Cal Poly is working on kelp farms. And I feel like the more kelp there was when I was young, the less erosion there was. So maybe our little barrier doesn't have to be rocks or logs, but maybe the kelp can help reduce the erosion along the coast that is happening right now. So those things are kind of future projects, and I'm willing to take any questions if you guys have any.
I can't think of specific ones right now, but to me, it's an extremely interesting project. When I look around Shelter Cove and see some of the non-native plants, in some ways destroying the view, like the Atlas grass and other things like that, it's depressing, it really is. And this could be a start to resolving some of that depression.
Is there anything that you guys are talking about as far as access to the beach that the public could use? Everything is washed away down there, as you know. And I, for one, love going down to that beach. Haven't been down there since the stairwell washed away.
At this time, we don't have a plan, but that would be something that we'd love to work with, because we do, I kind of slid down at it a little while back.
Exactly.
I mean, you got access, but it's hard to get back.
Right.
And so maybe that's something we could work with the RID and do that. I don't know, liability issues with building trails, I know BLM has different things they have to work with as far as liability and access, but it's something we could work with these guys and create something that's not too complicated. But again, you look at the food sources that are all along our coast, and the access to just being on that little beach in there is just amazing. And we will need access to get in there to do the abalone restoration and perch removal. So maybe that's the first thing we need to do.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll help.
Okay. They're on the list.
Okay, thank you.
So it sounds like the main method to remove invasive species is going to be fire and pulling.
Only in a couple little areas. So these are little quarter-acre, half-acre pieces. Probably the most will be handwork, just using our hands and just digging out the weeds. There's enough native grasses and things there, they're just being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So if we can get them, like the bull thistles and things like this, get them before they bloom and seed is a big start. And so our little, our botanical specialists had great success at McGregor State Park on different techniques, and they want to be fairly, let nature do a lot of the work instead of us. And so there are some species there, though. There's ice plant that's getting away from us really bad. But again, it goes over the face and it slows the erosion. So what we plan on doing is leaving some of that ice plant on the very face of the ocean side, and then letting the grasses take over more on the land. And there's a little trail that kind of wanders through there, and so that trail will be a little dividing line. And one of the things I needed to work with you guys on is where to dispose of all of these non-native things. Do we create our own compost pile, or do you guys already have one somewhere back, and then how to deal with that? So I'll work with you through the months on how to deal with that. But right now there's quite a few identified medicinal and food plants that are growing there, and it's pretty exciting.
I just think this is an awesome, beautiful project, and I'm grateful that you guys are willing to work with us on this piece of property. And ultimately, it'll be great to get it back restored as much as the natural way it should be.
One of the goals in the MOU is to create a place also for education, to bring kids for field trips, to show them kind of before and after, and not only that, just general public, all you guys. And we expect to have a few little ceremonial type things there. I know we had one earlier, we had the dancers from Round Valley come up. And so a little history with Wailaki is 9 tribes locally were taken to Round Valley down in Covelo. And so that's a long ways away from home, you know, and that isn't home. And so having Coral Point gives us a little bit of a spot, like our little reservation. Not that it's gonna have a bunch of old cars parked on it. We'll have to take back there. But it's gonna be a place to hand off maybe to the grandchildren, so they learn some of the things we were taught by our grandparents. And, we're pretty excited about it, and we hope that it could be an example for other Greenbelt areas that you guys have that have a lot of history to them.
Thank you so much for doing it.
You bet.
My only comment is like everyone else, it sounds like a really interesting project to do. Thank you for coming and talking to us about it.
Very good, thank you.
Any public comment? Nina?
Since this is going to involve a lot of hand removal, the ice plant, I want to encourage you to open up for local volunteers to help.
We will. Our plan is once we get a solid date, to ask for volunteers through a little newsletter or some kind of a thing that we can get out both here, but also, the inmate crew from the river camp was also available if we needed it for some of the heavier projects. And right now, there's the Roas stumps. It was put there by Brian, I think, years ago. And we might have to do something about just a little bit different kind of barrier or something in the future, but at least it's something we can get started with. But volunteers are going to be a key to this whole thing. So, very good.
Okay, moving on to director's reports to start with. Dave, do you have anything to report?
Just real minor stuff. I did the harassment webinar. And every time I do that, which is, I guess is every other year, I'm just impressed at how much it changes and how much more comprehensive it's become. And also did the fun thing, the Form 700. So that was all that.
Mike?
I took that same webinar, and if there's anybody I offended, I apologize. That's all I got.
Yes, so what did we do? We helped coordinate the on-site sports court meetup, where we went down to the proposed sports court site and had it staked out so we could see the actual footprint or close to the actual footprint of the project. And we met with quite a few community pickleball members, which was really nice for us to go over things all together. And I was really pleased to, see and hear that there is a lot of understanding that we do need to not only look for funding for this project. I think we all agree that that's one of the biggest hurdles right now. But we do have people volunteering to help go over the plans and see how we could potentially bring down the cost of the project. But that's going to take a bit. And, you know, it seems like they are willing to put in some sweat equity. I still stand by my suggestion that we look into doing some fundraisers as a community for this project. It's the golfers do fundraising. They also volunteer sweat equity, and they also pay dues. So that's been a way that we've operated in the Cove, where the community helps bring these projects to fruition if it's really wanted and needed and necessary. Then I met with Frank and Chris, and we went over wastewater and water plant issues, future infrastructure projects that need to be addressed. And I've been doing some research on some of the projects that Frank is looking into, such as the biosolid biochar energy system for our wastewater treatment plant, and also looking into potentially doing some kind of desalinization on a small scale, what that would look like for the Cove. And so I am still currently doing more research into those projects, and and then also looking at, for future strategic planning, you know, having those projects being a part of that strategic plan, so that we have a clear vision of what we're going to need to get there, to get upgraded to where we should be. Also, creek and habitat health was one of our discussion items, and I just really appreciate that, being able to have those meetings with them. And then also I met with Chris and John Aronson of the electrical department, and really discussed, you know, the state of our electrical utility, and what it's going to mean for the electrical utility to go solar, how we implement these policies in a manner that keeps our electrical department solvent. And I really do want to thank the public for their patience as we move through these policies. When we are looking at, especially the net metering and pushing for solar here in the Cove, and getting the district to also become self-sufficient in that manner, the policies need to reflect each other and help balance, bring us, I guess I'm getting a little nervous, but basically just making sure that our electrical department is going to be able to remain solvent. And so again, we talked about the strategic plan and making sure that, you know, John feels comfortable to be able to bring to the board what he really needs to keep the electrical department at its finest. And what else did we discuss? Yeah, of course, funding is the big elephant in the room. So I'm committed to helping as much as I can, like look for funding and continue on educating myself on connecting the dots and making sure we're moving forward in a sustainable, environmentally green way. And I think that's it. That's it for me.
Okay, I worked on the analysis of the January 2024 final year-to-date actuals versus budget to see where we were really standing. It was part of the costing project that I had agreed to do this year. We actually look in fairly good shape at this point. February may change things because of all the expenses that were incurred with all the storms. And I finalized the electric disconnect policy with Chris that we'll be voting on. And I attended the Southern Humboldt Emergency Preparedness Committee meeting. Any public comment?
It's coming already, really.
Any public comment on anything to do with the director's reports? Okay, Chris, general manager's reports.
Yeah, so this is kind of a lengthy one. This is the general manager's activities for February. So we all know there was a major winter storm response in early February. So I don't have to go over that one again. I covered it last week. Aside from that, attended meetings, board, staff, concerned residents, and community organizations, including the informal community clubhouse committee. A lot of activity down in the clubhouse. Met with BLM representatives, including an archaeologist at Malcolm's Park, regarding their plans to conduct ground penetrating radar research there later this year. I'll have more of that in the next meeting. Staff and I met online with the Weiss Law Firm Group to discuss the district's CalPERS unfunded accrued liability debt, along with other financial related topics, and there's more information later in the meeting on that one. Continued working on the board on updating policies. I greenlighted a $65,000 reserve expenditure to repair 17 sewer system pipe leaks and 12 manhole point repairs. That contract was found in February. They're working right now, actually, in the Spring Road area on those defects. Corresponded with Humboldt County Roads on setting up a memorandum of agreement for the use of their roadside mowers within the district, which we'll be covering later. Corresponded with the Humboldt County Code Enforcement Unit. Have them present their presentation today, and also regarding a large Connex storage container in the road right of way on the Spring Road. Anti-harassment training with the whole crew, we did that too. Worked on a state mandated workplace violence prevention plan. Awarded the Department of Water Resources drought relief grant funded project to fish drilling, drill a new well at the Lot W site on Willow Glen Road. Also worked on completing various paperwork for that, the county grant administrator on that. Assisted with the completion and submission of the 2023 annual wastewater report to the state. We received our new RID logo hats, Grace wearing one. So that would be identified out there. And finished up the interview and hiring process for the new administrative superintendent. And we awarded it to Zoe Wilcox, who is here today. Our new administrative superintendent should be here at the next meeting. Starts in just a little over a week. That concludes my activity. Sue, administration department.
Okay, so I posted 3 job vacancies. We went through some changes and additions to our staff. Collaborated with the GM and JAM, updating board policies. Assisted with the interview process for the administration superintendent position. Completed assessor interest tax reporting to county assessor. Submitted annual hazardous materials reporting to Humboldt County Environmental Health. Completed GSRMA annual insurance questionnaire to receive up to 7% off our annual liability insurance. They want to know exactly how we train people and trying to get people set as possible. Studied anti-harassment training. Met online with Weiss Law Firm with the GM to go over the unfunded liability debt of CalPERS. Coordinated with the Department of Justice regarding application for LifeScan. We're still going through that process. Worked on the annual state controllers report, and that's about it.
Let's see, for, last month, we, had a contract for emergency services out here to do the sewer mains. We found a lot of spring road wells there, and we went to our lift station 9, which is down the hall, north end of Spring Road, a lot of it's being pipes. They actually put those out yesterday, and we're going to patch them today. Our disc at the wastewater plant, the flood pump went down. We ordered new one, we had it installed. We have another issue with gearbox on hand. It showed up. We had a call on our lift station 7, which is out in Dolphin. On the help, we found the phase monitor on there. We replaced it with a new one. Up and going again. Our central lift station stopped working. At the end of the day, we ended up finding that our SCADA packs that were installed incorrectly. So when they shut down the VFDs completely. And you can't run anything that has a VFD on it now. The SCADA packs. If we have a power outage and pumps are running, they'll shut the VFDs off, and you can't reset them unless you go down to the lift station and unplug the SCADA packs that were installed and reset them. Turn them back on. So if we have any kind of power outages, and they'll have to go to all the lift stations with VFDs and reset the SCADA packs. We did haul the sludge on the Willets for disposal, and we had Eureka overhead door here to look at a replacement roll door or sludge building. For that last month, we had a near miss on the roll door skirt. It goes around the top of the roll door, rolling down the roll door, and the whole thing came down and somehow just nicked my hand and didn't slice anything off, anything like that. But they were out here and I'll get they were replaced. The ocean, of course, just takes the metal on that floor, so it shouldn't be needed to here come next year. The water department, we calibrated all of our transmitter meters there. We only ran it for 3 days because of all the slide activity going on between Telegraph Creek slides, Shelter Cove Road slides, the slides that are going on with all the new slides. So it's been real hard to run it. We've been using the wells a lot more. Wells. We just started running it again 2 days ago. Hopefully that with the rain slowing down, we'll use the water plant a little bit more. It's hard to keep up the water plant when it's been down for over a month. It's usually a whole day. Battery issues at the core tank. We thought it was due to solar issues and no sun, but we had plenty of sun this week and fixed itself, so we have to change the inverter there. We covered up the PRV up in Humboldt before the snowy cold weather there. Just to make sure nothing froze up on it. And then we took the truck that's running the Hopper Ford for recalling because it's burning a lot of oil. Check the oil on it. It's burning a lot of oil. We had the first time we found it, it consumed 5 quarts of oil, and there's no oil on the ground or anything else, and so it's burning it and take somewhere. So we're working on that. But this time, that's about all I have. Any questions?
So last month we had a big storm. I'd like to reiterate to the public, if there's down power lines, please stay away. When there's multiple incidents, we can't be everywhere at once. So I got reports that people were taking pictures on their phone and whatnot. So, just stay back, be cognizant. We don't want anybody to get hurt out here. So it's public. We performed tree work. There were 2 isolated outages from the storm. We helped with the sewer hookup on Upper Pacific. There was 1 outage on the tie line. The service called the ridge for flickering lights. on service call to Spring Road for half hour, and then called in for Frank's Lift Station 7 issue. And then I'd like to thank everybody for, that brought stuff during the storm, and, the Jibbo for offering up, root beers and, burgers for everybody that's on the crew. I thought that was really awesome. Thank you.
You guys know. Fire department has been very busy for this time of year. This is supposed to be one of our slower times. Obviously, we were affected by the same storms. The electrical department, our guys are out assisting the electrical department in keeping the roads open and the lights on. So, way back when you guys signed the MOU for the forward portal and the OES coverage, I don't know if you remember that, but that was one of the things we had stuck in there. What it does is it allows the fire department to get hired on by Cal OES, which is Office of Emergency Services. It's another funding source for the department. This year they've been pretty active in the pre-position of resources. So when a large storm is predicted, OES calls the local fire departments, and I'm one of the Southern Region coordinators. All of Humboldt County gets an order together and says, if anything bad happens, like a couple of years ago, we have 4 units in Whale Gulch, what resources do you guys need to pre-prepare? So in case that happens, there's no lag time. We put in our request and our order and say, hey, we feel really comfortable with these units to be staged. And basically it becomes paid staffing at the firehouse. So we had 6 firefighters staying here for 3 days this time. We've done it 3 times now this winter, including the strike team we sent guys out last summer, and we're right around $100,000 of income this year just working the OES. Right now, about 40% of that goes back to the engines, and we pay the other percentage to the firefighters. So they're making money as well for their time volunteering at the rate that you guys approved. So thank you guys for that. It's an ongoing program, but right now it's being pretty successful. And prepared, we get to use them in our own community. So they were available in Shelter Cove. When that storm hit, we had 6 guys here ready to respond to any call, medical aids, power lines down, anything like that. So it was pretty successful. We did a lot of training. So I was one of the leads on the structure academy out of Redway that did 23 firefighters from Southern Humboldt. They got their firefighter type 1 accreditation. 6 of those were Shelter Cove firefighters. We have 6 new structurally trained firefighters in the district. So that's amazing for what's going on national with volunteer numbers are down. So for us to get 60 people, part of that's our sleeper program. We're able to take people in from other communities. Right now we have 1 from Bridgeville and 2 from Alder Point that make that drive to volunteer out here and do sleeper shifts serving the cove. We also just finished up the last 2 weekends for our PSFA, so Public Safety First Aid. We ended up doing 30 firefighters from Southern Humboldt and got their EMS either recertified or new certification. So we're constantly training and working on that, along with our 4-day-a-month normal Wednesday night training, which is open to the public. So if anybody wants to come check out what your fire department's doing, Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, anybody's welcome to attend. Everything right now in the fleet, we're doing our annual maintenance. So before fire season, we try and catch up on all of our maintenance. So we will see an increased maintenance cost. However, right now, no major breakdowns. So knock on wood, we should be right within our budget this year on that. Annually, we have to pump test all of our engines, and those costs are increasing as well. Everything costs more money right now. We did get our grant in, and we have the new red truck out there. So thanks to Johnny for helping out with acquiring the truck. That's part of our CAL Fire Prevention grant. It's also going to clear the roads all the way out to Redway, around Whale Gulch, and Whitehorn. So a lot of these grants are intermixed with equipment and with treatment of fuels. Along with that, we have 2 other grants going on. You guys will see later on, but we're going to be signing a contract with Trees to be the coordinator in our $6 million USDA grant. So as soon as that's done, they can start getting the inspections on the homes done, and we can start getting contractors in. So we're hoping for boots on the ground here mid-summer to late summer and start getting fuel treatment in some of those houses, maybe even earlier depending on how the coordination goes. But again, that's $6 million for 100-foot defendable space on every home in Shelter Cove. So it's going to be a game changer for our fire safety. The other grants, right now we just applied for a slip and tank grant. And the Cal Fire grant obviously is still ongoing. And these grants, some of them go all the way through 2029, so long-term grants. Right now, I'm pretty much a full-time grant writer, part-time firefighter. So, but they do bring in income to the district, and it's something that we've been highly successful at going through. So, again, I'm available Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm leaving right after here to go to another county meeting for Measure C funds. So there's another set of funds we're trying to bring in. And right now, a lot of those funds are being allocated to county positions, so fire is seeing less and less of that. At some point, I may come to the board, ask for a letter of support on a different side, because they're used to hearing the fire chiefs complain about it. At some point, we're going to have some of our political powerhouses come in and tell these guys need help. It's very one-sided right now. We went from $2.8 million to $600,000 last year, which functionally doesn't allow us to do anything operationally. Our dispatch fees are around $400,000 a year. We pay for a county fire coordinator team that allows other districts to help them get taxes and other funding sources. So when that's all said and done, we have very little that actually go to the departments, and we represent around 46 different departments right now. So there's a lot to spread around and not a lot going around right now. But if you guys have any questions, my normal scheduled days are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, anytime.
I have a question. Can you talk about that airplane crash? I know you practiced at it, but I only read what was in the paper.
You guys didn't see Good Morning America last week. Yeah, we were, jokes aside, that was a miracle, and rightfully so. We should have been taking out 3 bodies. The airplane that took off from Shelter Cove Airport made it to Whale Gulch, and they lost engine power. Fortunately, the aircraft was equipped with an onboard parachute system. Pilot hits the button, shoots a rocket out, pulls a parachute that brings the whole plane down safely. I had seen videos of them, never thought I would see one in real life on one of our calls. We provided an automatic mutual aid to Whale Gulch, which actually was outside of our district, but that's an agreement that we have. Any code 3 or rescue or fire in Whale Gulch, we provide assistance for them. Our units got there around the same time as the Gulch units, and the hardest part out there is locating the patient. So if they would have made it another 5 minutes by air, we still would have been looking for them. It's very wilderness out there. They landed on one of the 2 roads in Whale Gulch also, so that helped. All around, everybody's luck got used up on that call. So our guys didn't have to deal with the mentally traumatic incident, and there was a small fire. The plane actually was torn apart coming through the trees, so even though it lowered it slowly, it's still 10 miles an hour. It's coming down. Ripped the tail off and started a small electrical fire that our guys were able to mitigate with Whale fire. Did a quick patient assessment on him, very few to no injuries, basically just superficial scratches. But yeah, there's a very young child and a young family. So we have had 2 general aviation crashes in the last 2 years, and all have walked away with little to no injuries. So it's definitely a miracle, and good on the departments for being able to find them and professionally, extricate us. Yeah, I did about 50 interviews with different news agencies, and part of the job, but it is good in showing, what our small volunteer departments who are very low funded comparatively to the larger departments, and we still have to do the same niche in plane crashes, rescues, fires. Doesn't matter if you're in Santa Rosa or Shelter Cove, it's the same thing.
I'm curious, it's not really official business, but I imagine that if I were in a small plane like that and that same thing happened to me, that I would be traumatized. I mean, thinking, is this thing going to really work? And I'm landing in this horrible countryside here with trees and cliffs. How were those people? I mean, were they okay?
Yeah, I think they knew the alternative was much worse. So I think it was one of those things where definitely very fortunate, and they knew that. Just like any other mistake, and you start second guessing why it happened, and that's still going to come in the investigation. But they had to, I think we're 4 or 5 plane crashes in the last year that started with Shelter Cove. They lost the plane down south and never found. One crashed in Cove Low last year, and so it's one of those things where this airport is getting utilized. Most of them have happened outside of our district. But going back to looking at the airport committee and safety within the airport, it had nothing to do with this incident. But it is one of those things that we are seeing general aviation become more and more popular as planes become more affordable. And that's one of those things that our airport has no resources added. So fuel issues will start to become a problem the more people that fly into here. But yeah, right now the airport is safe as it can be. A lot of these incidents are happening due to either pilot or handler that have nothing to do with their airport. The more use we get, the more issues we'll have. Again, remind the community that it is an active runway. There are still a lot of dogs and walkers on the airport itself. We discourage anybody from being on any of the tarmac, but if you are going to go on the airport, please stay in the taxiway and off the actual runway part. Pilots do have the discretion to go around, and it is their responsibility to check and make sure nobody's on the airport before they land. However, we don't want to make a habit of that and use it as a recreation area. Okay, thanks, David.
Comment on anything? All right. Move ahead to action items. The first action item is to consider modification of the following board policy 3076, discontinuance of electric service, second reading. I've been working with Chris and Sue basically on modifying this board policy 3076, which we read last month. And you have the draft policy attached. We made a couple little changes in the payment plan for less than $5,000. Chris and I came up, he brought it to us, and it's actually makes more sense than what we originally had in there to split it over 3 months as opposed to 50% payment plus. Do we have any idea why that's doing that?
Yeah, we do. I can't do anything about it
Oh, okay. All right. I just didn't know if it was me.
right now. It's the main utility radio feedback.
Oh, okay. So Dave, do you have any questions on this policy?
Not really. I like the way it's written now. I think it's a reasonable agreement to have people who don't pay their bill.
Dasha, anything?
Yes. I'm wondering if services are disconnected, and then will the owners be notified? Like, say, if we're dealing with renters, will the owners be notified of that disconnection? And then when it's time, let's say the renters can now have the funds to reconnect, will the owners be notified about that reconnection? I think in the past, we would reach out to the owners to verify, to make sure that they wanted that reconnected. Will that still be continuing? And does that need to be in a policy, or is that just kind of how the office operates without policy to back it?
The office always contacts the owner because they're the account holder.
And ultimately responsible for.
So we always make sure that we reach out.
Yeah, okay. And then with that, I'm wondering, we have a form that renters, and right now it seems to be voluntary, but in order for a renter to receive a copy of their bill, they fill out a form that the owner signs. And it's always been kind of left up to the owner discretion, so to speak. But I'm wondering if it would help to have in policy that renters basically have to have that form signed, because what has happened in the past is either they say, oh, we didn't get the bill because they aren't signed up to receive the bill, and that's why they got behind or whatnot. I'm just wondering if that would be more helpful to put that into a policy where renters have to have that agreement with the district and the owner.
The renters don't have any standing. They're not on the account.
Right, but because we've been dealing with, and maybe this will get cleared up, I'm not sure in the future, but for the past, we've been dealing with renters and negotiating with renters on payments. And it doesn't seem like there was, that they had forms filled out so that they were receiving a copy of the bill.
People can't afford the deposit, to be honest.
So I'm wondering if maybe with that deposit, we could either lower the deposit so they could afford it, or that we take that deposit away so that we just have it on record who's renting and who's not. I'm just wondering if that would be a benefit to policy and office. Chris, do you have any, do you understand what I'm getting at?
No, I'm not totally clear. I know we can follow up with this and find the answers.
Okay.
The renters are always given the same notification as the owners.
Yeah.
When we don't have a contact for that renter, they do get a door posting. So they're aware and they can always, on the posting, it says that they can come to the district to pay on the account. We give them the opportunity.
It wouldn't help office staff.
I don't mandating that they have to come in when they're not the responsible party for the bill. There's a legal issue there. I'm not sure whether we can mandate them to come in.
Okay. I'm just thinking of some past board meetings where we've been dealing with high-end users that are renters, and the discussion was, and it was never brought to discussion about whether the owners were even notified or asked if it was okay to reconnect those services. We were just dealing with just the renter. And so if the policy is that ultimately the owner is responsible, then I feel like there needs to be a little bit more of a on file that this home is being rented. This is who the renters are. Because I know that there's probably homes that don't have that. Renters haven't filled out that form, and so we're guessing like, okay, how is this going to get dealt with?
How do we inform the owner that that's, that is the rule that we have? Would that be in the initial?
Renter packet, like the renter packet?
Well, no, it would be the owners who would be they would be the people coming to the office they would have to know that the renters would have to do this. Otherwise, we would never know.
That's what I'm kind of trying, yeah, and I guess that's kind of the problem I'm trying to address is that we don't always, the district doesn't always know if it's just renters or the owners, right?
Right, and there's no way of us knowing because.
Unless the renters have to fill out the form.
Unless the owners come to us and say, we've got renters. So the owners are they're the responsible party for making this work. Is what I'm trying to say. The renters,
So I guess just as the board and staff, we just have to make sure that the owners are aware of what's going on with renters, even if they're not signed up. And that's, yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of the past and like how things have been dealt with and questions. What's that?
I think that the current administration will not be dealing with only a renter in the future. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah, it was not.
That was the choice of the former.
Right, and what I'm saying is I'm trying to make it to where it's in policy, so it doesn't matter who's sitting in the GM.
Yeah.
Because if we left up to the individual, it doesn't always carry over to the next person.
Yeah.
So that's my concern.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be covered under a different policy? Because this is only for this.
Says that.
Yeah, and it could be, okay, I'm sorry to, yeah. And it does, and I guess we would be getting into, maybe I'm on the wrong agenda because we'll be discussing this further in agenda 2, on the action 2, so, okay.
Mike, do you have any questions?
No, I like it.
Can I have a motion?
Motion. I'd like to make a motion to accept the modifications to the policy 3076, discontinuance of electrical service.
I second the motion.
Roll call?
Janet Evans,
Aye.
Jeff Hagrid, absent. David Summer,
Aye.
Mike Solari,
Aye.
and Tasha Bushnell.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carried. Now we're moving on to modifying grid ordinance number 69, administrative rate schedule regulating miscellaneous fees and general rules. It's a second reading, and all we were doing with this was housekeeping. There was some language in here about $1,000 that made no sense and didn't relate to anything. So all we did was remove that. So there's really, it's just cleanup. That's all we're doing with this particular ordinance. Questions, Dave?
No. I don't have any questions.
Well, I guess I'm looking for where I had it. Minutes. Oh. Well, I'm just wondering if we need to add something to this policy that somehow we can have owners making sure that their renters are signing up, filling out these forms and signing up with the district so that we know that they are aware of their bills. I don't know if this would be that policy. I think we're under deposits. I see the $200 deposit. That's also the property owner. Where was that? So I guess this wouldn't be that policy.
I don't believe so. I don't believe so, Tasha. This is really just setting the fees, which was, has been done, and we're just changing probably the wording here.
Okay, I'll just, for in the future, I'll do some research on how this works into that.
Okay.
In our policies. Thank you.
And I have a motion.
Public comment?
Oh, excuse me, public comment.
I'll make a motion for you whenever you're ready.
Wants to comment? Please go ahead, Mike.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 69 as presented.
I second that.
Roll call. Janet Evans. Aye. Jeff Hagrid, absent. David Summer,
Aye.
Mike Solari,
Aye.
Tasha Bushnell.
Aye.
Next item, action items is to review and approve draft MOA with Humboldt County Roads. Chris?
Yes. So provide some background on this one. Late 2022 through early 2023, the district and Humboldt County Roads collaborated on a pilot project with the use of the county's roadside mower here in the code. Traditionally, maintaining roadside vegetation control is the sole purview of county roads. However, due to county staff shortages, it was proposed to the district to lend and maintain their equipment while allowing district staff to operate it. This way, the work is completed at a minimal cost to either agency, and Shelter Cove's roadsides are mowed and safe. Pilot project went well. District staff managed their time accordingly to complete their work while also accomplishing this new task. Indeed, district staff were better able to complete this project than county workers because of staff's intimate knowledge of district infrastructure and localized vegetation control priorities. In the future, properly trained Shelter Cove Fire Department personnel could also possibly be utilized to conduct this work if R&D staff are unavailable. As a result of this successful pilot project, County Roads is now proposing a formal memorandum of agreement with the district on the use of their roadside mower. This proposal is a draft agreement that has been reviewed and approved by the county's risk management team and by our own risk management agency, GSRMA. Once the district board approves the MOA with the county, it will then go before county council and possibly the board of supervisors for final approval. And I wanted to add a little bit of correspondence I had with Steve Finch, County Public Works Roads Division Manager. He says this agreement is just allows them to get more work done as their crews or our crews have time. So there's no like obligation or quota or anything to do here. It's really just about keeping the roadsides safe in the code. And then when the trial was conducted, Steve Finch said that much more work was treated, or much more road was treated than would have been done with his forces alone. So with that, I'd like to, any questions?
I think this is a really good thing. It's efficient. We get some stuff out of it. But the MOA itself is kind of poorly written. In particular, item 1, rights and responsibilities. Under that is the heading A. Doesn't make any sense. It's the very first sentence there.
No. Yeah, I see that. Well, this is a draft, so I can definitely highlight that.
So this came from the county?
Yes.
Okay. You're a pretty good editor. Could you clean it up? That's my only comment.
Yes. And I did receive some answers to my questions from you, Chris, yesterday, so I do appreciate that. I just want to bring it to the public's attention. How much did the pilot program cost the district? And your answer is roughly around $13,000.
Yeah, that was a really rough estimate based on the labor and time spent on that project of the staff involved. One of the other questions was how many staff have to be involved with that?
It's like
two would be minimum, one to kind of mark things, traffic control, one to operate the mower. 3 on major roads like Shelter Cove Road, maybe 2 flaggers and mower. So, and I think we did it for about a month and a half, what I heard. So,
okay.
I got that number.
And so where in the budget are we taking these funds?
It's labor.
So, I'm sorry, what was it?
Yeah.
So the pilot program was grant funded with Cal and a California Coastal Conservancy grant.
So moving forward, we won't have that grant to cover that
No
cost?
grant funding right now with the California Prevention Grant. So it might not cover direct labor costs. A lot of it's in kind, but the majority of the money we're getting for the grants, the CAL FIRE grant was $900,000. The 2 CAL FIRE grant, the Coastal Conservancy grant, were basically $120,000 each. Those 2 fuel reductions. So in order to get the grant, we usually say we'll do some sort of in-kind work, which turns into mowing, but the money that we spend comes back, $400,000 to $500,000 more right now.
So currently, that's how it would operate.
Yes, that's how it would operate. Right now, the CAL FIRE grant, we have an obligation to maintain the fuel break. So the whole program started in 2018 when we designated our roadside as fire breaks. So all the roads in Shelter Cove, almost 30 miles of them are designated fire breaks, and we committed to do the 30 feet high limit, and that was done through the grant, and then whatever Johnny does on the power line each side, and then 10 feet on each side of the road. So it gives us about a 50 to 60 foot fuel break, 30 feet high for all 30 miles, and we just extended it to Redway. So, there's definitely some more historical background to the MOU.
So this is attached to that. Because by the agenda item, and when I was reading that, I was thinking, well, here we are, we pay really high property taxes, we pay for the county to maintain our roads, and we don't quite get that service for as much as we put in, which is understandable for our location. I just didn't want to assume that we're taking, assume more county responsibilities than necessary, and since we're already paying on taxes to have that done. But ultimately, safety does trump that, that concern for that. And I guess since it's open-ended, we could also like go back to, at some point when that grant is finished, we could look at this and make sure that the county, see where we stand with the county at that point.
Yeah, and the encourage to the event, there's no obligation for us to mow. The county can't call us up and be like, hey, you guys need to mow this section of road today. The biggest thing is their tractor is far more efficient than either our mini excavator or the Bobcat for roadside mowing. It's built for that. That was one of the bigger reasons why we asked to utilize that equipment. And then also the fire department was intended to run the program originally. There was staff that decided that they would like to do it instead and take that on because they were mowing anyway. And that's what they did for a living with mow. So the fire department can take on a significant portion of that once properly trained. We had firefighters that wanted to volunteer to do it. They just need training and they're covered under volunteer insurance.
Yeah, that was kind of my second question, was like, what was the comparable wage that a county employee would be getting paid to mow? And then what wage are we paying our district guy to go mow? What that difference was. That was one of my questions. And but if it's grant money right now, and then in the future we can utilize fire department, that might save us.
It's also the number of times we can mow. Right now, the county can maybe mow once a year, and with our growth rate, what they just mowed right now is going to grow back by the fire season. So it's one of where we have more say on when we mow. And with the fire department, they can't mow during fire season because of fire risk, where we can because we have fire engines that can be on standby. So it does offer us some flexibility. And again, we don't have to mow if we don't want to.
That's a little question, that's not a big deal, but just, so where are we planning on storing the equipment? Do we have a site?
I don't have that worked out yet. Probably have to discuss that. Yeah.
And Vandals Road. Oh, one more last question. When we were talking about liabilities and one of my questions. So let's say, just for my clarification, we have the mower going and we have 2 flaggers. And if, let's say knock on wood, this never happens, but if one of the flaggers were to, with no faults to their own, be hit by a car, let's say, where would that liability fall on? Would it be the district or would it be the county?
District.
It would be district.
Yeah, it would be under
Okay, so we'd be assuming that liability. Okay. Or the,
Yeah, hopefully driver that hits the guy.
if they're insured. Can't think on that. Okay, thank you for answering the questions.
I have a question. I'm not sure who it's for. I'm used to seeing memorandums of understanding, but this is a memorandum of agreement. What is, if there is any legal difference between them?
Yeah, I noticed that too. This document was from the county, so I guess maybe that's what they prefer. I don't know. Yeah.
With a memorandum of understanding.
One might be more legally binding than the other. We probably ought to research that.
Memorandum is not a powerful agreement.
Right.
Memorandum is more an understanding.
So that was another little question I had. I just didn't want to ask it, but is like, how would we get out of this agreement if we decided to leave this agreement? It's just non-binding. We can just say, okay, we no longer want to do this. Okay.
I got nothing.
Public comment.
Yeah, I know. Public comment?
While we're at it, why not fix the potholes too?
Anyone else for public comment? Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the draft MOA with Humboldt County Roads.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Wait a second. I think there are going to be changes to this.
Yeah, with editing, it should say probably,
Oh,
the
with
motion
editing,
should
okay.
say, motion to approve the MOA with changes. We're gonna count on Chris to clean it up.
Do I need to
Should I
read?
make modifications to it?
Yeah, just
As necessary to clean up the language. It is a little bit strangely written.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm trying to be politically correct on that one. And Chris is very good at writing. We count on him, I count on him for a lot. So if we can redo that motion. Ready?
we'll do the motion again.
Yes, please, with the editing.
I make a motion to approve the draft MOA with Humboldt County Roads with the necessary editing and refinement.
I'll second.
Roll call. Deanna Evans. Aye. Ben Everett. Yes. David Song. Mike Soloti.
Aye.
And Zashi Bushu.
Aye.
Okay, the next action item is to consider adoption of resolution 2406. It's a resolution of recognition and appreciation for volunteer interim general manager board secretary Jack Hargrave, and consider compensation for the board secretary portion of his service. The background on this is board member Jack Hargrave was the RID board president when the general manager's position became vacant on April 21st, 23. He was obligated to take a leave of absence from being board president and serve as interim general manager and board secretary until a new general manager was hired. He attended countless regular and special meetings without any compensation and lost his board member compensation. The board wishes to thank Jack for his dedication and compensate him as board secretary. See attached draft resolution of recognition and appreciation. The financial impact of this would be to compensate Jack $1,725 for his services for basically 7 months of his activity as board secretary. We brought this to the board a month or two ago, and we had to check with legal counsel to be certain that it was okay to do. We received confirmation from legal counsel that it is okay for us to go ahead and compensate Jack for the board secretary portion. We just could not do it for the general manager position. So any questions from anyone on
I got a
this?
comment.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mike?
Yeah, I didn't think we could go back and do this, but I see with this email from Patty, our counsel, giving her blessing on it. I'm perfectly okay with it. Jack did put forth a lot of his time and efforts to help us during this time, so I really appreciated it.
Yes, that was a difficult time for the board in the district, and it was really important to have somebody step into that role. And we really do appreciate it.
Public comment?
So we've gone through a few general managers and this has happened before. Well, why not make it an ordinance to compensate? I mean, if it's gonna happen again, why are you compensating Jack and not Susie? Well, what was the difference? And I know that I appreciated her when she was on that. I heard something about the general manager or secretary. Maybe that was that she was acting general manager, so you couldn't do that. Right.
She was acting general manager, but she remained on the board when she was doing it. She did not step down from the board and take a leave of absence. So we're not compensating Jack for being general manager interim like Susie was. But it is an idea. We could set a policy going forward for how we compensate someone who steps in and gets paid as board secretary. That might be a.
And I was serious about the potholes. I mean, nobody needs any training to do what those guys do. They're walk away.
Can I say something? I don't generally say these kinds of things, but some of the repairs they do are worse than the potholes. So I'm agreeing with you. I just saw one recently that the bump that they left was worse than the hole. So anyway, board members shouldn't complain like that in public, but.
And I think our union rep would disagree on the training part. Any more comments?
As a member of, as someone who's part of the community, as I see that Jack dedicated a number of months of time.
Yeah.
And it saved the community tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, I don't know, 50,000. I don't know what the amount was. It saved Ridge a lot of money. Did I hear that right? That's $1,700?
Yeah.
That's what we could calculate for what a board secretary's compensation would be and how many meetings he took as a board secretary.
And so you couldn't compensate him for his time?
Not as general manager. That's a state of California thing, so it would have been a violation.
So it just doesn't feel balanced. As a member of the community, I just want to say it doesn't feel balanced.
I agree with you, but we're doing what we can because we really want Jack to know we appreciate it.
And I'm sure there's no other avenue, I guess.
It has taken us months to get to this point to be able to do this. So we wish we could have done more. We have since the beginning. So.
Any other things we can do? A plaque.
Well, we have a resolution here thanking him, but that's about basically what we end up being able to do.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
We're gonna go buy a coffee at Fish Tank. Yeah. I'll make a motion to, oops, whoa. I'm on the wrong one. I'll make a motion to consider adoption resolution 2406 or approve resolution 2406.
I second that.
Roll call.
Jen Evans?
Aye.
Jeff Havrick? Liz Summer?
Aye.
Mike Solary?
Aye.
Richard Bushine?
Aye. And the next item is consider adoption of resolution 2407 authorizing federal and state background checks. Chris?
Yeah, so this is another one that's been a long time coming. Over the past few months, district staff have been working with the California Department of Justice to permit the district to be an authorized participant of the live scan confirmation program for performing background checks on present and future general managers. Passing and authorizing resolution by the board of directors is the next step in the process. So there's an attached draft resolution that was provided to us by the from the Department of Justice that will allow us to see these background checks. Oh, yeah, so yeah, it's not just for present and future general managers, but also for other staff.
That was my question.
That was mine too. So,
Good question.
go ahead, Mike.
Is there any cost associated with this?
These are currently $79 for each background check.
But there was nothing for getting things set up and in place?
No.
Okay.
Staff time.
All right.
I just have one question. When in the hiring process would this be done?
I would assume after selection, and in the same order that you do the physical. Employment checks.
Just squeeze in, Chris.
No retro.
Any comment from the public? And no, Chris didn't just squeeze in, but this is where we learned we needed to do this. Okay, Mark.
Background checks, drug testing, things of that nature can be pretty dicey once you get the information. So I'm curious, what are the criteria for DQing somebody? And you have a policy of what would pop up on a background check to prevent the code from hiring?
I can speak to that a little bit. When we were in the process of looking for our latest general manager, the board had discussed it and we talked about it, and we were just looking for financial crimes. If you're in a GM spot, that was something that stood out, or any type of felony we would have to reassess that you were convicted of. That's kind of where we were at that point in time. So I'm assuming it would be along those same lines. But yeah, maybe a policy should be in place with that, so everyone is aware. But the big one was the financial crimes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because you got the keys to the castle.
But that's with everything, once you get data, right, everybody feels they have to do something with it. You know, it's, if you don't have a policy, then it becomes, you know, discretionary.
Right.
Right.
Gotcha.
We'll need to rewrite a little bit of the policy that I thought we did something with Patty Ayers when we were getting the research going again.
Well, we'd asked Patty, we consulted her and asked her what we should disqualify for. So she's an HR attorney.
Yeah, so we can just write that into the.
Just a GM position, correct?
I think that's what we wrote the Department of Justice. It's gonna be the GM position.
Right.
It's gonna be,
Well, because
we could expand, but right now it's just the GM.
right, because we have, he's a check signer.
Yeah.
That's the biggest reason. So, okay.
So just for clarification, so we're talking about, right now, we're talking about the general manager, about light skin, not necessarily for the rest of staff.
Right. We can expand and we'll probably bring it back to the board at the point.
The MOU they have says. Yeah, if you guys look at the MOU.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering if the justice.
But, paperwork is just the GM. I'm not sure. We got this from the Department of Justice, so
Maybe that's what they would.
maybe we should apply for resolution.
That's allows you to utilize.
Right.
Oh, so you might not have to come back.
Well, I think we do from the paperwork that I've been.
Okay.
We would have to reassign who is going to be background check. I had to actually list who was going to be on the program.
So any of the background check information that comes back, that's confidential.
Yeah.
At that point, right? Okay.
Any public comment? Okay, could I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2407, authorizing federal and state background checks as presented.
I second that.
Roll call.
Dana Evans? Aye. Beth Hathaway, absent. David Siller?
Aye.
Mike Solari?
Aye.
Ashi Bushine?
Aye.
Okay, next one is consider adoption of resolution 2408, notice of award wildfire resilience project coordinator, budget approval and designating applicant's agent. Chris, do you want to talk to this?
Yeah, I'll actually pass this one off to Nick, our chief.
This is good.
Yeah, so kind of, I hit on it just briefly in my report, but yeah, this is great. This is starting off, everything's been kind of waiting for this moment in our $6 million grant for almost 2 years. So, really just to sum it up, is this is going to be a paid position through Trees. So Trees is at Garberville. They've really been focusing right now on field production projects, including for sky burns, and they've been in partnership with us on Chipper Day. I know a lot of these guys personally, and very excited. They put together a very, very in-depth proposal. So they have a great plan for how to implement this grant. This is one of the largest grants in the country for this size community field production. So there's going to be a lot of stuff with a lot of great PR. As I said, every house in the cove to get treated, and then every bit of our green belt that touches homes or private property will have a 100-foot buffer put in as well. We've already had a good meeting with them and then discussed kind of what their plan is, got them the contract, and this is just some housekeeping with basically letting the board make it official who we're going to select, and staff and the admin superintendent brought this to our attention that, all right, we got to run it by the board and get your approval for that. So that's
Go first. I'm really impressed with the packet that they put together. The impression I get from it is that it'd be more of a partnership than just a coordinator. They have a lot of expertise besides just somebody to call us and say, we want to come to your home and tell you what's fire safe and what isn't and what we can do. It's a lot more than that.
yeah, it's actually a whole team. So there's 2 coordinator positions, and they're also going to have a team of inspectors. That was part of the original grant write-up. Is when we did the grant, the fire department didn't have the capacity to expand the grant to the 7 we expanded to. The only way it works is if we were able to contract out the coordinators. So they'll do all of our reporting, our environmental review, and then all the inspections on the home. So you guys, as homeowners in Shelter Cove, will get a profile on the inspection and recommended treatment list, and that recommended treatment list will turn to a work order for the contractors coming in. So we really should see a large jump in our work rate for the fire department or any R&D staff. So that's kind of the intent of this grant, and really the only way it's going to work. So I agree with you. We're getting a really good deal, and they're excited about it as well.
So, yeah, I found this proposal extremely thorough, very professional, and quite cheap, I might add. Yeah, so I'm excited to get this moving forward, working with this company that seems to be very professional and like I said, extremely thorough. So I'm looking forward to this getting started.
Well, and they're local. That was kind of the intent. With these large scale federal grants, it's really hard to keep it local. So this was our first step of getting a local person, and next it will be the contractors. Yeah, so we still don't have control. Somebody can come make a bid from Louisiana or Mississippi or wherever, but we're hoping with local people working on this to get the word out that anybody's going to be that has a license, that's going to come down to that. We can't contract these, you don't have a business license. But these guys know how to do it. They'll be able to work with local tree guys and workers to get this going. So
good.
Just one quick question. We're looking at treating roughly 540 homes, is what it looks like in the contract. So that, and I'm going to answer my own question. So that doesn't include unpermitted structures, unpermitted homes that people are currently living in.
not unless that will be treated as a vacant property. So if that vacant property is a threat to any other, improved property, it will get treated, but it's not gonna be prioritized. So it's also gonna be like 2,800 vacant lots on top of just to make that 100 foot defendable space, usually involves 7 or 8 different lots, bumping off that. Everybody will have to register, they'll have to basically voluntarily sign up for the inspections, and then if they don't, then we'll have to use our ordinance to basically abate the properties that aren't up to code. That will be down the line. It could be up to $3,000 per house. And why the numbers are only 500 because some houses that we've already done the work on won't receive full treatment. You might get a weed whack, and maybe a gutter to clean out, and we're still looking at what the actual treatment is going to be. But everybody that owns a home will get something out of this. Every home will be inspected. And you'll have a profile that is also up to insurance standards. So you'll be able to show that to your insurance company and say, listen, they came out, they did the inspection, they did the work. It's up to the new 2023, so 2024 is coming out to make the new standards, but the software we're looking at is up to date, and other larger counties are using the same software and seeing good results with it. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and just the only other comment I have is, as an environmentalist that I am, I was happy to see them getting the letter of recommendation from the Mottola Restoration Council. That kind of eases my mind on environmental mitigations and stuff like that.
We'll be doing a full CEQA for the Humboldt properties. It's not, we won't need to do it for the public or private lots. Oh yeah, all public will receive a full CEQA. Staff, myself, and the tree will work on that. But the green belts will be less priority. We're going to be working on the homes first with the current fire season.
Does this relieve a lot of the pressure on you with this grant as we come into fire season?
Yeah, I told the regional manager I wouldn't agree to it unless we have this coordinator position. I already have most of my time split between grants and running calls with the managing fire department. So, and then we'll be running the Cal Fire grant concurrent with this one as well. So, and just two more grants. So it's ongoing, but this is a great one for the community. And like I said, it is a game changer. And then once we have it, it will put the entire code at kind of a baseline. So once we get everybody's lots clear, there's no more excuse. We're going to tell the property owners you need to maintain your lots. And that's going to be the next big chunk. But we're 4 years out from that, so it's a long ride. Getting community buy-in is going to be very important, and these are the right people for that.
Any public comment? Okay, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2408, Notice of Award, Wildfire Resilience Project Coordinator.
I second the motion.
Roll call?
Janet Evans,
Aye.
Jeff Conrad, absent. Amy Summer.
Aye.
Max Delory.
Aye.
Ashley Bushnell.
Aye.
Come on. Consider financial options regarding payment of CalPERS unfunded accrued liability. Chris?
Yeah, so this is I'm not going to read this whole one, there's a lot going on here. This is one of the items that I've kind of inherited from previous years. So the California Public Employees Retirement System, CalPERS, is a benefit provided to all full-time district staff. And CalPERS, part of the contract with CalPERS, the district is obligated to pay any unfunded accrued liability. And that comes from CalPERS investments that don't quite invest. So CalPERS bases their investment on 6.8% returns. And when the market is down, they don't get the 6.8 unless we have to pick up the slack on that one. They provide current and former employees their benefits. So right now, the district owes somewhere around $1.6 million in unfunded accrued liability. And we make annual payments on that. Right now, we're breaking it up into monthly payments. And that's what that payment you asked about earlier was, the $8,000 per month. So right now, the payment is about $113,000 per year. for that unfunded accrued liability. But CalPERS offers options to bring it down to paying less interest over time. One of those options is what's called ADP, which is additional discretionary payment. And if an entity has some reserves or some other source of funding that they can use to make a one-time payment, will bring down a lot of interest over time. And so the district does have a local agency investment fund account with about $400,000 in it. And I've been working with the Reese Law Firm Group and CalPERS on strategizing what we could do to maximize the best returns on district funds. So the LAIF fund only accrues 4% interest, whereas the CalPERS is a little higher. So what will save the district more money? Pull some money out of that fund to pay the CalPERS debt, and how much would that be? So still working on it. At this point, I don't really have a good recommendation what we should do. Still trying to coordinate with CalPERS and Reese Law to get more data and information. This is sort of I know it says action roll call vote, but I really wanted to stress that I don't have a good recommendation yet.
Any other questions?
Not so much a question as a comment, but when we first looked into this a couple of years ago, the best option at the time was to finance it because interest rates were under 2% at the time. And that would be way better than any other option. And we didn't do it at that time because that was when interest rates started going out of sight. So that still would be the best option if those interest rates do come down, and they probably won't until at least another 6 months, not significantly.
Yeah, that can also be done in addition to the additional discretionary payment. We do both. That is something we were looking at. We did, after corresponding with the Reese Law Firm Group, we did learn that we have to clean up our books basically before we can refinance. So we have to kind of go back to the drawing board, CPA, our audits, separate a lot of our funding so that we can refinance with CalPERS.
Yeah. There was another person, a couple more people that we worked with back then. One was Cal Muni Advisors, I think.
That is a Reese Law.
Right. Yeah, they're in the same group. But the person who made up all these graphs was exceedingly knowledgeable of this stuff. And when we get closer to being able to do something again, I think we'd be really well advised to have them redo them and show us where we could save the most money.
Yeah, that's my goal. I'm going to do bring this back, much more clear data. Go forward.
Mike?
No, I got
I don't have, well, I have a bunch of questions, but I would say that I definitely would like some more time to go over all the information before you have to make a decision. I am wondering like what the timeline on that decision, when that decision needs to be made, like what that looks like.
You can make an additional discretionary payment at any time, but we will get our annual CalPERS bill in July.
For 2025 or for 20, okay. So for 2024, we've been making payments.
Yes.
Okay, which of course is gonna increase the cost, right? Making those payments. Breaking it up into payments increases.
Oh, yeah, I think it was 3.5% you save by making one-time annual payments versus the monthly payments. You're paying more because we're doing monthly.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
One of the things, Chris, that you and I and Sue had talked about in our meeting was the possibility of pulling the money out for this year to fund the $113,000, so we're not making those payments. And then I liked your idea, instead of making the payments to CalPERS, put the money back into the LAIF account. So we're getting the benefit of the interest reduction.
That's still making the minimum payment.
Yeah, I know, we definitely have to look into getting this balance down. But if we can make a start on a little bit of a dent in it by at least getting, a little
We were-
savings?
We were making the minimum, we were making the annual payment until last year, and we were still not catching up.
Yeah.
We're still,
Yeah, we need to be making more, and we need to hope the market starts improving.
yeah.
'Cause that's a huge part of it. Thank you. Any public comment? I think we're just gonna move this along to another time with a lot more research and information. So soon, no action taken? So I have 2 pages of questions. Okay, moving to the next. And final action item. Consider the following unbudgeted expenses for the electric department. $20,749.84 for contractor storm-related emergency response, and $510,000 for the purchase of the new line truck. Chris?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring the Warren Construction invoice to the board, just to review and approval, just to make sure it's well aware, things like that happen in the code at the report storm. We do have contractors out there that we can get to assist our operations if we're limited. So that's to approve that one. They assisted us in replacing 2 broken power poles and rehung the associated power lines that were dislodged in that storm. The electric department is also requesting the board authorize the purchase of a new line truck to replace the 2006 line truck, which is currently out of compliance with CARB standards. It's not reliable. I know John gave you a letter to. So financial impact, cost of the emergency repairs, the electrical infrastructure was $20,749.84. The cost of a new line truck is $510,000.
Somebody else.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, me and Chris spoke about this line truck. $510,000 is a rough pill to swallow since we haven't properly budgeted for this. I seen in the proposal of increasing rates and other things to compensate for this. We've got to be able to take a deeper dive into this and see if we can maybe look at buying a used truck somewhere on the market, or possibly what is the cost associated to contract out this type of work instead of spending this kind of money on a truck. Maybe we could weigh those options as well for the district. I don't know. I'd like to see a little bit more work into that and see what other options are out there, because $510,000 for a truck, and we just bought another truck not that long ago. It's a lot of money, a lot of money. So that's my opinion.
I think that truck was originally supposed to be paid for with the GRIP grant, is what the hope was. And I believe Justin authorized John to order this truck. So this truck is on order and it's coming in the 2025 fiscal year. Is that correct, John, or is it in 2025? Pardon?
Probably April of next year.
Okay.
They got a kickback with the 24 CARB relate, CARB compliance for California. It should have been started about this time, but the chassis availability with the new CARB rules came out, kicked it back even more. So now it's basically going to be 380 and now it's 510. By the time we pay contractor to come out and replace 2 poles at $20-some thousand, that's not including hardware, materials. That's just basically travel time, their equipment to come out and do it. So replace 10 poles, it's gonna be $100,000.
Yeah.
We did that in 1 year. over 5 years that would pay in-house to do that work.
Well, it also it speeds things up if we have our own truck. Otherwise, we're waiting and depending on contractors and when they can come out here, which we all know that we don't have patient residents.
Well, yeah, and then it's depending upon, if, what if it's snowstorm over the hill and 40 miles of line are down and the transmission's out and, everything else. We got really lucky with the snowstorm last year that the tree that broke the guy wire, we're just able to tie it to a stump, crank it back over and, hold the cross arm on it and get it back in the air. If it wasn't, the generators most definitely probably would have ran out of fuel because we couldn't have been able to get the fuel truck in here with snow. I mean, that's a one-off incident, but at the same time, for the future, I mean, it's going to keep costing the district more money, and it's going to be longer out of this. I mean, even if we had a full staff, then we can't get over the hill in the snow or stuff like that. We're kind of, we're going to have to call somebody. So, and if it requires a track piece of equipment, that's going to be even more. Because then you're going to have to call the union shop. Union shops are making $140 an hour probably just for the labor. And it's 5-man crew to come in. So one pole replacement could probably cost 50 to 60 grand. So.
Mayor, real quick. Is there somewhere we could buy used equipment?
Yeah, but most of the used stuff is used and abused, right? They're selling it because it's past its service life. Something's wrong with it. Motors out, different things like that. People that buy these things, they keep them till they're ran into the ground, and then they get rid of them. They don't maintenance on them. A lot of companies do maintenance, but then once it gets to its service life, generally they're going to be 15 years old. So we're kind of we're upsizing, maybe upgrading to a 3-year newer or 4-year newer truck. So, it's just kind of one of those things. Yeah, it's a big pill to swallow. It is something that we're going to need in the future. We're going to continue to give reliable service. Like I said, we can't get over the hill and the snow and the ice and all that to replace stuff. And the fuel truck can't get in here, fuel us. I mean, we got lucky that Morgan was still over in Garberville because he had those 1,000-gallon trucks. He was able to bring fuel in. He's gone now. So now we're either Redwood Coast or Renner, and all they have is a big fuel truck. And I talked to Geraldo, and he said he's not coming in here, and I said I don't blame him. Even chained up, coming down the hill with 3,000 gallons of fuel. I mean, that thing's just a lot. Yeah. The way it's unsafe for them, I don't blame them for saying, hey, we're not coming out there. And then the other option would be, hey, let's buy 1,500-gallon fuel tanks and put them in the back of trucks and drive over the hill 50 times. By the time we get back with one load of fuel at 100 gallons, say that's a 2-hour turnaround, you've already burned that 100 gallons of fuel in the generator. So we could shut 1 or 2 off and just run critical infrastructure. But I mean, then you're going to have the customers complaining because the power's out. So, yeah, it's cold. And they can't turn their heat on.
Well, there are financing options too that we need to look at that aren't just raising rates or taxes. There's, CSDA has now said they have vehicle financing available to special districts, as well as Alltech's been willing to finance it for us.
Yeah, Alltech will finance. I don't know exactly what I got it somewhere.
Yeah, I saw it. It was
probably 7 to 8%.
Yeah.
No, when I got the printout, it's like depending on which route you go, it's, 7 to 9 grand a month, depending on how long you, break the payments out for a month.
And interest rates might be better by the time this truck's finished too, so that those all-time payments could be less.
If we looked at optional, different financing options, I don't know, I use ag credit to buy stuff. They treat me really well. That might be an option you could look at. Vehicles and all kinds of excavators, log loaders. Then they get paid dividends on that. You get a check back. Not much, but it's something.
So this purchase would be a critical infrastructure, electrical infrastructure purchase for maintaining our infrastructure. And again, like, had we moved forward with this purchase a few years ago, we would have been saving money. And
We started looking at this in 2018. I whittled it down and I got it where it was going to be out the door for less than 300.
yeah. And so I think we can really see how that affect when we try to look for cheaper alternatives on the short term, how it really costs us long term.
Well, yeah, it's like buying used pickups. Okay, we're going to buy some used pickups, and then, like I said, you're generally buying somebody else's problem, right?
Exactly. And then we're putting our workers out with subpar equipment.
I mean, the county, they even get new trucks every 2 years.
Obviously, we're not doing that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. So I mean,
full of potholes because they're buying new trucks.
Yeah. So from my perspective, this is a much needed equipment. We've already been putting it out on the back burner for quite a few years now, and we're going to have to pay for that. But it's not going to get any cheaper. Also, I'm leaning more towards option 2 of the financing. I'm concerned that if we put it on a rate increase on monthly bills, of course, yes, the public's definitely not going to like that. That'll be a hard sell. Yet maybe it's necessary. I'm not sure yet. And then as far as a tax, increasing our taxes, that may be something that we need to do further on down the line, but that is going to take some time to get community buy-in for that. And also, it should be, when we make those decisions, that should be a part of a strategic plan where, the electrical department has listed all of the future infrastructure needs that we need to cover. And along with the wastewater treatment plant and the water plant and so forth, so that the community can see in each department what big projects we're looking at. And then if we go for having to increase land taxes, then it's all done at once. And we're not just, we're treating us as a whole picture, not just one department. And having to go back and say, oh, now we have to raise it for water. Oh, well, now we have to. So if we do look at those type of fee raises on our taxes, from my perspective, it should be done in accordance to a strategic plan.
Yeah, but there's also that, whether you raise, so it's $25 more a month, or if you say pay $80 more a year. Plus, then it would be broke up within everybody instead of just the rate.
Right. But then if it gets shot down, then we're back to square one.
Yep.
And so.
But that's why I threw that in there as an option. We can look at that, and then we also have the finance.
Yeah.
So there's different options we can do. That's why I gave
exactly.
you 4. So.
And we could look at combining those options, because then we could start out with financing and then work on, if we do increase property taxes, then maybe we could even get it paid off quicker.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Essentially, those $80 more a year, that's $350,000 in 2 years it would be paid off.
And so, yeah. So I mean,
And then that would be, you have to pay interest for say the 2 years at say 6%, that would, as opposed to 6% over 5 to 7 years. And then there's gonna be cost savings in district for that. Plus, then, once that's paid for, we can get other things like, we're gonna need to replace the backhoes soon. We need a building, store all this stuff because everything's just rusting away. Things like that, we can use it for improvement projects like those, upgrade the water plant,
Right. And that's what I'm saying, like, when we go to look at that, we need to have all that listed out so that the community can really has a clear picture as to why we are asking for more. Rather than just saying, oh, we're gonna raise it, raise the property taxes, and then, yeah, we have future projects in mind, but nothing solid, and then people are gonna be like, oh, and then we're gonna get the money, and then we'll be like, well, we'll make up, or not make up, but we might, find projects to fit that money kind of thing, instead of having that money go to projects that we've already committed to along a strategic plan. So for me, it seems like we don't want to keep waiting on this. It's just going to get more expensive. And I'm wondering what that financing option would look like.
Well, it would have to be investigated, the different financing available and who's got the best deal and what they need, from us to do it. Obviously, Alltech's pretty much in agreement, but I think it's something we need to start looking into right now, because any kind of property tax change for infrastructure for everybody, not just electrical, well, it's going to take a push, and it's going to take a few years. I know it took a long time with the fire department, but we have now got a solid fire department. But on that note too, with the trucks, they keep going up in price. Nick, you found that some of the trucks you bought are now double what we had originally, what we paid.
I was gonna speak to that. It's deja vu for me. I came up here in 2017 and had the exact same concerns Johnny had. We went through the exact same process. The fire department was broke, and we had all these different plans of how to do it. The county recommended $350 per home and not increasing the vacant lots at all. And we kind of came up at the fire department and said that vacant lots aren't paying their due. We increased the vacant lots to 99.25 and kept the houses at 125. And with our grants and our chipper program, almost every single person has gotten their return and then some. If one of these houses that gets a $3,000 grant, that's going to be a long time. Right? 30 years of your $100 tax payment. And so looking at that, and the other option that we just used successfully was utilizing the reserve as a finance option. The fire department took a loan from the RID reserve and then paid it back over 2 years to pay the truck off without paying any interest. And ours is only a $350,000 truck. The one that we're looking at replacing that's 13 years old now. This truck, same truck we bought in 2009 for $325,000 for $750,000. Exact same spec, no difference. If you can even get the chassis, then it's 4 years out. So Johnny actually is ahead of the game getting the chassis. We could be having this conversation and be 4 years out for having an engine in service. The other side to it is the mission the district accepted to do is to provide reliable water, power, sewer, fire rescue, all those different things, parks and rec. This is a critical piece of equipment to provide one of our key mission statement staples. It's just like fighting fire without a fire truck. How we pay for that is like you, I think, Ted brought up a good point, the long-term plan with the taxes. However, we have a model that has already shown and proven to work. So supporting the power crew, they're out there hand in hand with us on these incidents, and I have seen where they've had lack of four-wheel drive or one truck. If that truck's broken down, even if the new one breaks down, we're still down one. So in fact, Johnny's only asking for one truck and not two trucks. I've got four for redundancy. So this is a very cheap and effective request that could be much higher. Unfortunately, we didn't get the GRIP grant, but that's something we got. When I go for grants, we have a plan B for that, what we need if we don't get the grant as well.
So that's kind of my, so I do have a question. When you presented us with the options and it says pay for it outright, and this can be taken from the reserves if voted to approve. And then we wouldn't be paying interest, we'd just be paying back ourselves. But then the last paragraph you say the first option has no potential to be able to pay back the reserves. What does that mean? because that's what I was like, well, if we could just take it out of the reserve so we can pay back, then that's great. But
It doesn't have to, it just comes out of the reserve. I mean, the only other options to be able to pay it back out of reserves would be either through.
okay,
We don't have, the department doesn't make enough money to pay it back like Nick's
fire-
got his
okay.
property tax that he can pay back.
So if
It's
we,
easier for Nick to budget because he knows, okay, I'm getting $400,000.
Right.
You know, and then if they had if we had another $350 to budget between the three departments after this is done, then it's like, okay, we can do more on Frank's sewer repairs where he's got, infiltration that's flooding a lift station, you know, pumping in another 250,000 gallons of water into the sewer system. Things like that, we know it's gonna come in. I know that getting money from the county takes a while and it's kind of dicey, but I mean, it's there. It goes into account when people pay their taxes. The funds are generally there once a year. I mean, it's another tool to be able to budget.
so, but if we were doing a tax, my concern is just putting the tax thing together and getting community buy-in to that is gonna take some time. Especially when we have a large part of land owners that maybe aren't within, they don't use the electrical services, and such as myself, I'm solar. However, has a community member, and I want to see the electrical department remain solvent, I personally would back that increase. But I know that it's going to be a hard sell for people who do not rely on the electrical department. And so I don't want to necessarily I kind of think maybe we need to either tie it together with financing and the tax, or we take it from the reserves and hope that the tax passes and then we can replace it.
I think we have to investigate what it is, and it's probably going to have to be a combination of financing and whatever else we can come up with through the community. Typically takes about 3 years to get the property tax, plus we need a strategic plan before we go for it.
Yeah.
Because it's got to cover 60 or 70-year-old infrastructure that's out here for water and for electric. We are really in a situation where our infrastructure is in bad shape, and we need money to take care of the things we need to do. I personally would rather pay a little bit on my property tax than hike my rates up that I'm paying every month. So I think it's the way we have to look at it. But I think right now what we have to do is decide, do we want to go ahead with the truck we've already ordered? Thank you, Justin. Or does anybody want to wait? I don't see any sense in that, but
I definitely don't want to wait.
I don't either. Dave, anything more?
Sure. I agree with all of the things that have been said that we need to do this. We need to get the utilities in the position the fire department's in, where we can say, if you have a truck scheduled to buy, we'll loan you the money out of reserves and you'll pay it back. Now, that's a real hard part for me now, is not knowing that it can be paid back. And so that's why what Tesha's been talking about is so important, that we need the way to pay that back into the reserves. And we need a little bigger approach to it, to include other things like the water plant. We've talked about this before, but I'm not against buying it. I think we need to do some real hard looks on how we're going to do it. This kind of thing, it's sort of like the unfunded liability. The more you put it off, it's like a credit card. It just goes on and on and on until you can't pay for it. And that's what this could easily get to be. So my thought of what we have to have is a way to pay it back if we loan it from reserves. We have to have a way to repay it.
Or the other option is to finance it. monthly payments.
Combination here.
Monthly payments, and then we could have it paid off in 5 to 6 years. Which seems to me the quicker way to get the truck, rather than trying to tie it into the, I mean, we could take it out of the reserves and just not know how we're gonna pay that back, which is a hard pill to swallow. But I think that we can't really tie it to the taxes because that's gonna take too long. And I would hate to see if for some reason that tax got voted down, that we'd be back to square one. And what did you say the timeline on? When are you expecting this truck?
April 25.
So that's next month. Next year. Okay, I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
25.
Of 25.
Built next month.
Okay.
The whole car, 24. With the chassis, it came down to, well, we don't have any allocations for California. Okay, so then we have to go to a dealer in California, which they sell they're gonna sell the truck at the same price as Altech would do for the chassis. It's just gonna get drop shipped to their facility from the factory to get built. Instead of Altech getting it, it's, another company they work with is gonna be able to get a CARB compliant truck, because they only have 2 allocated for all of California in 2024.
Speak for a second there. There's another option, you guys, that we can add to it also, to buy it outright or whatnot, along with the financing. We could take 250,000 out of that budget and use that as a payment. That'll bring down whatever financing that we have to do also. So another option to think about. We don't have to spend it all out of the budget. We could use part of it as a down payment.
Yeah.
And bring our interest rates and everything else. Would be, depending on what you wanted to put in the, or allocate $200,000 down and have it.
And I don't think we need to pay anything on this truck, correct, John, until it's delivered. So we've got time, and I think what we need to focus on today is, are we gonna actually approve it being built?
And do we keep with the order, or do we say, no, we're gonna wait? So,
I mean, yeah, that's what really we're trying to decide today. I think it's going to be up to us, the board and you and Chris, to decide what we can do, research all of our options and decide the best way to do this, money down, financing with Altech, financing with CSDA. There's a lot of options here, but I think what we need to refocus ourselves on right now is, are we gonna order this truck? And that's what I think the key is today.
I think that's the issue too, but I don't think that this agenda item, as it's worded, says that, covers that.
Okay.
And can we make a motion to that specific intent?
Public comment.
Yeah, but we could change it in the motion. To do that, we'll go with public comment first, but then we can change the motion to say to start to give authority to purchase the truck,
Sure.
but we reserve the right to figure out the financing on it and how the best way is to go. Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Okay. Mike, anything more?
No, after what I heard, I mean, there's a need for the truck. Obviously, there's a need for the truck. I was just hoping that we could find something a little bit cheaper. That's a big number to swallow. So as far as moving forward with the truck, I mean, I'm on board with that. We're just gonna have to figure out how we're gonna pay for it. So that's where I'm at.
Public comment.
Yeah, money's hard to swallow. They're doing a couple roundabouts that are gonna cost $17 million in the Leeville Arcade area. That kind of just blows my mind, that that's just a little roundabout one. Cover that kind of money. But if you're looking at your budget today, you had a bucket truck rental for $9,000. That, if you rented it, that's gonna have 8.5 years at that $510,000. How long is this truck gonna last? 15 years, so that doubles that. And then you also have have the machinery that you can sell again. So, you're just looking at it like that. And then I moved up here with the fastest vehicle I ever owned. I was a Montero Mitsubishi Sport. And it was 4 years old and it would blow everything away. Moved here to these mountains and it lasted only 1 more year. So to get a used car on these shows is a bad idea. Well, that's it.
This is obviously a pretty significant agenda item, and I want to compliment the board and staff for wrestling with it. 3 major comments. One, I love the idea of Tesha's strategic plan. I think it fits in nicely. Arlen, something you said a couple of meetings ago about vision, some sort of mission statement, we could kind of dovetail together. And I do get a more easy with these major problems popping up and not seeing a long-range strategy. So I think you guys are all sort of thinking the same thing. Let's see your thoughts.
It is something that this board and Chris have got on our radar that is going forward. It should have been done a while back and it didn't get handled, but we are going to have a strategic plan for this direction.
Certainly encourage. That was my first thought. Second one was, obviously these are big concerns that kind of get me too. I get it's all $500,000 truck, kind of boggles the mind. But also one thing I hadn't appreciated until our comments was the fear of running out of fuel for a generator. And that one I hadn't pondered before. We'd be in a world of hurt as a community. So this leads me to my final third kind of set of observations is I do want to compliment the RIS staff and John in particular. You guys did a tremendous job. I mentioned this last meeting, but from a community, as a community member, I was so impressed with what they did. I know that costs money. I know that's that 20K value there for rent to bring out other subcontractors. But I really appreciate it. You guys finding solutions and jumping on the problem and solving them. I understand that cost, but I want to add my congratulations as a community member. And my final last part of this is going back to that fuel for the generator. Again, we had more solar, more solar facilities with batteries. One of the ideas is we can feed into the community system with our batteries and our solar and also maintain our own system. It takes a lot of that load off the fuel burning of our generators. And again, we appreciate the urgency and try and move that solar concept further along as well. But thank you. Thank you very much for all that you're doing.
Trucks, I gotta say something. So yeah, Mark Wilson, 30-year field mechanic with PG&E. I am very in tune with these trucks, and Jerry's dead on. You don't buy a used line truck. No. They are the epitome of the most broken piece of equipment that you can buy on the thing. But one of the things to keep in mind too is nobody ever quantifies the cost of when the power's not on, right? So when the power's not on, the meter's not spinning. The meter's not spinning, revenue's not coming. So when you start quantifying the cost of what a piece of equipment like this is, then you really find out that, yeah, I mean, $500,000 is a lot of money, I guess, unless you're Elon Musk, right? But this is why it's important to have vehicle replacement programs in place in districts and counties and stuff. Like Fort Nick's gonna have to put one together. I mean, he bought, how many trucks did you get at one time? Right, 4 trucks at one time. That means 4 trucks are probably gonna have to be replaced at the same time, right? So you gotta figure out how you're gonna fund that forward. At PG&E back in the 90s, we bought 92 line trucks in 1 year. And that was not a good idea because that meant 92 of them came up for replacement 15 years later, right? So definitely in support, safety wise and everything too, that you guys figure out a way to buy this truck.
John, just one more question. So how many more vehicles do we need in your department?
Well, we need another pickup. Yeah, replace one. And then put on two. Which that's over the next 3 years.
So we're looking at 2 additional vehicles over the next 3 additional vehicles over, and that also includes the water department. Okay, so that's total about 3. Okay.
Yeah, so standard pickup. Yeah, we've gotten rid of a few that were older and we deemed kind of a safety hazard, just the age of the braking system on there and exhaust leaks, the cab so rotted out it broke the windshield. You know, they're over. The last one was a 2007.
The last one was Richard Cole's truck from 2007.
Do we still have that truck?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. The 2 before that were 05 or 06. One was a 2000. So I mean,
But we haven't replaced.
yeah. The previous 2 general managers, it was we'll just put off buying new trucks, and now here we are. Now almost, well, most of the trucks we got rid of are gone, but we still need to replace them. And if we're gonna get more staff, they're gonna need more transportation, unless we're gonna buy some rickshaws or. I suggested rhinos with no door to do meter reading, but already shut that down, so there's not too much fun with them, I guess, on the beach. Yeah.
I got a question. Can we sell our old truck?
We can,
What's the estimated value on that? I'll pay down that number.
4 years ago, it was probably worth 30, 40 grand. I don't know what it would be now. I haven't kind of really been looking at JJ Kane as far as their auctions go. I know there's we've been taking them to JJ Kane and Dixon, which is right where the Alltech shop is. So essentially we could take the old one down there, drop it off there, pick up the new one. But there haven't been a lot of line trucks going through that yard. Most of them have to be sold out of state because they don't meet our emissions requirements, or they're wrecked. So, I don't know. We've had a couple of people, every time the Alltech guy comes out to do his yearly inspections on them, he said, hey, I know a guy, and I'll talk to him, and then that's as far as it goes. We've had the Will from Alltech, which is kind of they don't call him a sales guy, they're called something else. They're an associate that helps you purchase your vehicle.
Fucking sales guy.
Yeah. But they're not technically sales guys. Anyway, they've taken photos. They said, oh, we'll look into it. And then it's kind of, I think it's one of those things. It's a nice truck for its age, but that's because we kept it inside for its whole life, right? So if it was parked outside, it would look the way it does. Just like the old chipper we had when we took it down to Sacramento 3 years ago. I said, here, go through this thing, check all the bearings, change all the fluids, just service it so it'll last, another 5-10 years. They said this is probably the nicest, oldest one they've ever seen. And that's because we keep it inside. And, we tend not to try to beat up on our equipment. With young kids and whatnot, sometimes stuff happens where you gotta, scold them and stuff. But, generally we try to keep our equipment in good working condition. And, that way when it's out and he's looking at it, it's not a, hey, what'd you guys do there? You know, ran into a tree stump or something.
Yeah. We're gonna definitely need to house all these new vehicles. Get the most life out of them. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like the generators that sat down at the wastewater plant for a year. I mean, they're starting to rust now.
Yeah.
So I mean, sort of taking them apart, take them up to, there's nowhere to sandblasting around here anymore. Blast them and paint them and then put them back in the shed. I don't know if they do blasting. They paint, but.
We used to paint our trucks in Fort Bragg every 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow. All
Until
right.
we built the structure, the parking.
So since we don't,
Okay.
all of our questions are answered, right,
Yeah,
Mike? You
yeah, I'm
done?
good.
And public comment has been made, anybody who wants to it. So why don't we get a motion with that we can order the truck? How do we want to write that, Dave? Yeah, you're the wordsmith. And then also, and the electrical. Oh, yeah, both. But we only have to alter the 510.
Let's tackle this one.
Line truck. Approve the purchase.
Approved purchase with future financing options. That be it?
All you have to do is say you want.
And we have to say, continue the process of purchasing.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll do
yeah,
it.
that's a good idea. All right, Michael.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of our new line truck. We'll figure out how to pay for it later.
What about the 20 grand?
Oh, and the $20,749.84 for the contractor's farm-related emergency response. Aha.
I second that.
Roll call?
Jim Evans,
Aye.
Jeff Cameron, absent. David Summers. Mike Zaluri,
Aye.
National Machine.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Oh, that was a tough one.
Turn at 12:01.
Thank you, everybody.
The meeting.
Yeah.
Really